Hello everybody, welcome to Nerd Lab. My name is Brien, and this is our first ever Nerd Lab podcast.
And I'm your other host, Eli. Man, I've actually been really looking forward to this. I know we've had some discussions after our games and all that.
Yeah.
And ever since we talked about doing this podcast, I've been excited and really want to get some conversations in with you.
Heck yeah, man. We got so much to talk about. What happens is usually on my way home from work, I'll give Eli a call or our buddy Kyle a call, and we'll start talking about something about Magic, and I'll inevitably say in that conversation, this should be a podcast. So I have a channel, might as well start a podcast.
Yeah, and I know we spent sometimes we get out of games at midnight, and then we spend another extra hour to 2 hours just talking.
Yeah, an hour is lucky. If I get you guys out of my house by 1 o'clock, I'm pretty happy on Saturdays. But what we want to go over is some of the Precons, just the general state of Precons in Commander, and then also some specifics about the Murder at Karlov Manner Precons. But first, you guys know me a little bit, but let me introduce you to my good friend Eli, friend of 13 years?
You've known me since I was in middle school,
Yeah.
so you've almost seen me grow up.
I have indeed. Well, you're about the same size back then. I was much smaller.
Small but mighty.
Right. But yeah, no, for sure. Yeah, I think it's been 13 years. I think it was 2011, but I'm not positive on that. So what was your first ever commander? Who was your first ever commander?
My first commander was Tristani Selesnia's voice. It was the one where you gain life equal to the toughness of a creature that entered. And then you could pay 3 and tap her and populate.
Yeah, I remember that one. I like that deck.
Yeah, you helped me build that deck. And I look at it back now and I'm like, man, there's so many ways we could have streamlined it and made it so much better. Because I think I remember we put Collective Blessing in that deck, and it's more of a token deck.
Yeah, we didn't know much back then. The nice thing was we had about 6 or 7 people that were all getting into Magic around the same time.
Yeah.
So Tristani, I tried to rebuild her a year and a half ago, and it was pretty good. But then it turned into a Bilbo Baggins deck.
Okay.
Whenever he came out in Lord of the Rings.
I got you. That sort of makes sense because Bilbo had more of a better payoff for your life rather than Tristani did.
Right, and I had 2 Selesnya decks already, so adding that black was kind of really nice.
Made it unique.
Yeah, well, I love Selesnya. Those are my favorite color pairings in Magic. Add blue, add black, add red, doesn't matter. That's what I like to do whenever I play Commander.
Yeah, I've sort of moved away from Selesnya because one of my first standard decks and my first commander deck was Selesnya, and now I've since moved away, and I think I lean more toward Gruul.
Yeah, so we started playing a little format called Standard. I don't know if you guys know what that is, but this was before EDH was a big thing, and I had my best Standard deck was Selesnya.
My best deck was actually a mono green deck. It was back when Theros came out and it was all about heroic.
Oh, yeah.
So I would play creatures that fought other creatures, and while at the same time, it was always the heroics that pumped up those creatures. So I would fight a creature, kill a creature, and make my creatures bigger.
Yeah, mine was Sigarda, and it was enchantments, and I eventually turned that into a Sigarda enchantment deck, which was really good.
Yeah. It was that hexproof, I remember, that just always made it so difficult to deal with.
Yeah, and I was dropping auras on her and had all these, if you're casting an enchantment or enchantment is a battlefield, draw a card. So I'm playing these 1, 2, I don't think I had many 3-mana enchantments, and she would just get huge. She's hexproof, she's flying. Was she vigilant?
No, I don't think she was vigilant.
Flying.
I think you were able to give her vigilance with your enchantments.
Yeah.
Her thing...
She ended up with double strike, vigilance, lifelink, all that good stuff.
Her thing was her second ability, your opponents couldn't sacrifice creatures.
Couldn't make you sacrifice creatures.
Yeah, couldn't make you sacrifice creatures, yeah.
No, that was a good deck. Anyway, so your first was Tristani,
Yeah.
and now what's your favorite commander?
Well, like I said, I think I've moved toward like in Gruul. I like to beat people up. And so I think my favorite deck right now is my Stang Echo Twin deck.
Stang, man. Here's what I like about Stang. Stang uses cards that you barely ever see,
Yes.
right? Like I like any commander because to me this is the soul of Commander as a format is you get to use stuff that you never see anywhere else, and you have to like you're supposed to be digging in deep because you only get one of each card. That was the whole idea. And so Stang's one of those where you're not using a ton of staples.
Yeah, and that's the sort of the whole point. A lot of them have ETB triggers, and a lot of them have exit triggers. The big card in that one is Mask of the Ancestor, I believe. That's the one where it gives him +2/+2 for each other enchantment on the battlefield. That's a
Yeah,
big
that's kind
one.
of nice. Yeah,
Yeah,
because you're going to double those enchantments when the copy comes in.
and
Right?
then the copy's also getting
Yeah.
double those enchantments because of the other Stang.
Yeah, so that kind of describes you as a player because you like to be aggressive, but you also don't you don't politic as much.
No.
And with those attacky aggressive decks, you really can't be big at politics because you're going to make people mad.
Yeah, why would I politic when I'm in the lead?
All right, you got to make you have to be okay with making other people mad to play the decks that Eli plays. I think you're one of your more like one of the decks that we know you for at the table was forever
Nikia?
Nikia.
Yeah, the one that doubles all your mana.
Yeah, so it was another big Gruul stompy. That was like your go to for a while. So
It was.
back in Gruul doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that was a fun deck. I just think it sort of got power crept out, and maybe I could
Yeah.
rebuild it now to be a little bit better.
That'd be interesting to see that one rebuilt because creatures. I feel like creatures are making a comeback.
Yeah, I think the issue with it was that you limit yourself to only creatures, and so because of that, you lack your mana ramp at the beginning.
Yeah.
So like you have to play 5 lands before you can get Nikki out to double your lands. So you're not getting her out till turn
Yeah,
5.
there's no creatures in green that tap for mana.
That's fair. That's fair. I was thinking more so like your 3 visits, your instants and sorceries. And maybe I would have to go check that deck list if
But
I still have
there's
it.
so many more mana dorks now than
Yeah.
there were when we were playing, or at least that we have access to.
Yes. That's also one of the things like I remember when we were first building those decks, we didn't have like a really big budget with our commanders.
My first ever deck was Ural and Ural Miststalker. I just basically took someone else's deck from one of those old deck techs that the dude was just flipping over cards from his deck and talking about every single card, which is it's kind of funny to go back and look at those now. But I just basically took anything that was like $10 or more and threw it out and kind of just replaced it with whatever I had. But I think I spent $100 on my first ever commander deck, and that was a lot, and that wrecked our table. Like,
Yes.
Euro was like the deck because I spent a whole $100 on it.
Yeah, and where if you had brought like $100 deck, granted we've made some $100 decks that function and like could keep up with our table, but back then like that $100 deck just wrecked us. I think I may have only had my Tristani deck back then, and so I'm not sure how much was into it because I know you gifted a lot of those cards.
Yeah, you basically took your standard deck,
yes,
and turned it into a commander deck as best you could.
That sounds about right.
Like you were just dropping random creatures with big butts and trying to gain life.
I cannot lie. That's exactly what I did.
What was your win con in that deck? We didn't have Aetherflux Reservoir yet.
No, that's the pitfall of some of our early decks, and where I was growing as like a commander player, I don't think I may have put a win con in that deck. It may have been, let me just get a whole bunch of creatures out, and if somehow I got Collective Blessing to give all my creatures +3/+3, let's see if I somehow pull something out my butt and win.
Yeah, that's that standard mindset, and that's basically how your Selesnya deck was in standard. Was let me just get a bunch of creatures out.
Yeah, let me try to gain some life with some instants and sorceries.
Well, we really didn't we didn't know about aristocrats yet. We didn't know about infinite combos. In fact, Ural had my first ever infinite combo, which was Sword of Feast and Famine, which is why I splurged $10 for that. Uh, and Aggravated Assault.
Yeah, splurge $10 for. What's it now? Like what, 20, 30?
It bounces between 25 and 50.
Okay,
So I don't think it's been reprinted. So it's probably still
probably still pretty
higher.
high.
We'll put it on there. So they know, we don't.
Yes, because we're dumb.
Yeah, until later. But yeah, no, that was the big splurge for Ural. Was Aggravated Assault, which was cheap then. It got expensive. It's reprinted now, so it's back down to next to nothing. They got some really cool art for the Aggravated Assaults now, though. Ural was awesome. My early Commander days, you'll find out, I was the threat often. The rest of the play group, well, I just had a job. They were in high school.
Yeah, easy to put money in your deck when you have money to put in.
I'm not a creep. I did youth ministry, so I was they were teenagers in my youth group, and it was just a way for me to connect with them.
Almost put us in the hospital a couple times.
Well, not you,
just Sean. No, you.
It was an inner tube accident, and in my defense, all right, I was spiking an inner tube because I was winning. And I'm a gracious winner. And there was a little girl that I didn't realize was right in front of me, and I had to adjust from hitting her and killing her to the 6 foot tall Sean, who was much sturdier than that little girl.
Yeah, you also hit me for a good amount. I remember there was specifically an Ultimate Frisbee game where I was going for the disc. The next thing I know, Brien comes in and like WWE body slams.
You ran into me.
I disagree.
You ran into me.
I disagree by the amount of feet I flew. I disagree.
You can't play the tape on this one, Eli. You can't roll the tape on this one. That I'm gonna chalk that one up to one of the night games we did, and I didn't see you. But anyway, so they didn't have any money. I didn't have much. I was going to college and doing youth ministry at the same time, so yeah. I didn't have much money. But the little bit of extra spending money I had went towards Magic.
Yeah, and I think whenever I would have a birthday or Christmas, every so often I would ask my parents for some Precons.
Yep.
And at that time, I really enjoyed Precons because I think they were better than any deck I was building.
And what a great segue. Yeah, Precons, that was like the second or third round of Precons.
Very early.
Because when I started my first ever Magic experience, I played an awful 6-player game. I didn't even have a deck, so I borrowed someone else's deck. It was a 6-player game of Magic. I don't know if my friend who brought me to that group told them I was coming or not, but I didn't have a deck. I went and I played theirs. We played the whole night, the same game. They gave me a green-black deck, and I was just board wiping a bunch.
So you were not. You did not make a lot of friends that game, did you?
I didn't. I don't think they ever invited me back.
Oof.
But I had a lot of fun, and so I went to Walmart and I saw the Kalia Precon. I don't even remember the name of it, but that was part of the first set ever. It was like Angels, Demons, and
that's right. That's the one where whenever she enters the battlefield,
when she attacks.
When she attacks.
Yeah, when she attacks, you put an angel, demon, or dragon from your hand.
Yeah. That deck would actually probably be really good right now, considering all the new angels, demons, and dragons, especially dragons.
Well, I still have, well, I don't have that one, but I have a somewhat updated version. I think it's been 2 years since I've updated it. I could make it better now, but I went mostly angels anyway.
Yeah, because you now have like Ancient Copper Dragon and Goldspan Dragon now out, and we all know how much you love your treasure tokens.
Yeah, treasures are fun. So, so I think it was like the second or third round of Precons that you, Sean, and Alex started getting Precons, and it was fun because we had this kind of, I would spend more money and kind of upgrade decks to here, then you guys would catch up.
Mm-hmm.
Then I would get up to here, then you guys would catch up. Aaron in our group, he also would, he was right there with me the entire time, and he builds, I think he's the only person who builds more decks than I do.
Yeah.
In our play group. We have like a 8 to 12 person pod. We usually only get 8, sometimes 4, sometimes 8, but we can get up to like 12 for like birthdays and Christmas.
Yeah, I think Aaron brings, I were to put an average per month, he probably brings a new deck to the table twice per month, if I had to guess. Maybe
if it was
maybe
average,
a little
because
less.
what he'll do is he'll build like 5 or 6 decks in a row
Yeah.
and play through those, get bored with them, and then a couple months later bring a whole bunch.
Yeah.
And they're always good. They're just like it's weird because I kind of have a rule with most players, which is if it's your first time playing a deck, I'm gonna be nicer to you. I'm not gonna blow up your commander. I'm gonna let you do what you want to do just to see the deck play before I kind of start targeting. It's hard with Aaron because he'll bring a bunch of decks and they're always good, and so sometimes I forget and I just like I have to kill his commander before before the deck can get going, and that's I don't know if that's his fault or mine, but he's the only person that I do that to.
Well, I think Aaron's just a really smart guy, and he when he builds a deck, I'm pretty sure he meticulously looks at every single
Yeah.
card and thinks about every single angle before he even builds the deck. So when he's coming into a game, probably in his mind, it's the equivalent to playing like 5 or 6 games with it.
Well, he goldfishes and any new players out there, goldfish, goldfish, goldfish. Always play through your decks as many times as you can. I think it's fun. Aaron and I have talked. We enjoy goldfishing our decks and running through our decks and building our decks as much as we do bring them to the table and playing them. And I think he even enjoys it more than bringing to the table and playing. So always run through your decks a bunch. But by the time he brings it, he's played it more than most people have played their decks already.
Yeah, I think my thing with goldfishing, I do goldfish my decks. I don't think I goldfish as much as you and Aaron. And what's nice about goldfishing is you can see what your deck's meant to do, and it
Yeah.
lets it pop off without having to worry about someone blowing your stuff up. But I think sometimes where I have issues with it, well, not even issues, where sometimes makes it difficult is when you have interaction pieces
Yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
based off what your opponents are playing. Or if you ever do like a Smothering Tithe or Rhystic Study, you sort of have to like take the average
Yeah,
of
you
what it
gotta
does.
guess,
Yeah.
right? You gotta guess what your dockside's coming in and bringing in. Your smothering ties. Am I playing against Brian? Is he gonna have a bunch of treasures out already? Or am I playing against Darren? He's drawn a bunch of cards.
Yeah.
Like you really don't know. That's the problem with it. But it's important to do because you figure out what your lines of play are. And when I think one of the more miserable parts of playing Commander is when someone doesn't know their deck and they're playing their deck, and
Yes.
then you just like you're waiting for them because they really don't know what they're supposed to do. And where people have goldfished, even though like me, Aaron and I will take more actions, game actions, we're doing them faster because we've played through so many times, we know what we want that deck to do.
Yeah, I like the first thing that comes to my mind was Kyle was playing Selesnya enchantment deck. I forget the name of the commander. It's the one
Ivy?
is it Ivy? It's the one that lets him make tokens of enchantments.
Yeah, I'll put it up there. I think it's Ivy.
Gotcha. Well, I just remember all your creatures were on the ground, and he had enchantments on his commander that could give it flying. And so I'm looking at what he's doing, and I'm like, I see the win con. And I say something out loud, but then I'm like, no, Kyle's a new player. Let's see if he can see it first.
Right.
And then you heard me, you looked at me, and you immediately said Voltron, and I didn't say anything, but I gave you the look.
Yep.
Then we turn and look at Kyle, and he does his thing of like, let me make a whole bunch of tokens that don't really move in any direction.
And they wouldn't do anything this turn anyway.
Yeah, wherein you obviously had the win next turn. And so, like, he does that, and then, of course, you win. And then, like, at the end of the game, I'm like, Kyle, you know you had the win, right? You had all the enchantments to, like, buff up your commander, give it flying. Brian didn't have any flying, and you could have swung easily for 20-plus commander damage.
Yeah, and that's one of those cases where I think it's okay. If it's a new deck or a new player, it's okay to show them mid-game what the win is. If it's a veteran player or someone who has had that deck forever, keep your mouth shut, let them figure it out. But I think you made the right call.
Well, I didn't want to take the win away from you. You played a good game, and so I was like, Brian deserves the win if like Kyle doesn't see it. So whenever someone plays a good game, I would like them to be the winner of that game.
Yeah, we had one game, and I won't mention who this person is. They know who they are. But we had one game on New Year's, and it was like 1:00 New Year's Day. So we'd been there New Year's Eve. It was 1:00 New Year's Day. They were playing Xyrus, and I have a Xyrus deck they have a Xyrus deck, and so, but I play my Xyrus deck all the time. It's probably outside of my CDH deck, my best deck. And I knew immediately what his win con was. And he sat there probably 30 minutes. And because I opened my mouth saying, "Oh, you're about to win," and then I quickly shut it, and was like, "Well," and he's like, "Don't tell me. I want to figure this out." So credit to him, he wanted to figure it out, but he never did. So it was one of those where it's just like it was a complicated board state, but there was an obvious win to me, but that person had to like figure it out. But they didn't goldfish nearly as much back then. Now they do. They're a much better player now than they were then. So.
Yeah, I remember something you helped me out with mid game was my Marneus deck. That's the example of a deck where I made a better deck that was better than the player who was piloting it. Because I think that was the first time I built a deck like that. That was that complicated. And so, like, you were mentioning to me, okay, here's the infinite combo. This is how you, like, I think it was with Chasm Skulker, or was it Ominous Sea?
Ominous Seas?
Maybe.
Yeah, so Ominous Seas, you had to have some Phyrexian Altar or Ashnod's Altar out.
I think I did.
And then you can create the thing, sack it to draw the card. Or no, when you create it, you draw a card, then you sack it to pay the mana to create the token, to draw the card, to sack it, to create the token, to draw the card. Yeah, you had Ashnod's out. So you also made infinite mana.
Yeah, and I think in my mind, I wasn't understanding where the mana was going when I was piloting it. But
no, that's Nadir Kraken.
It was Nadir Kraken. So many cards that involve have ocean prints and seas and all that.
Anytime you get Krakens in the game, I'm happy with it. But yeah, so that was another one where, like, because I've had that experience too, where it was actually Xyrus, where I played at a high level table for the first time. I played Xyrus. I had the win, and I forgot to go to combat. I was doing so much stuff with Xyrus, and it was like a turn 3, turn 4. The deck was going nuts, and I even said afterwards, I hate it when my deck is better than me. But with what was your commander for this one?
For this Precon we just played?
No, for the Nadir Kraken.
Marneus.
Marneus, right. So Marneus, I had built... Did I do a deck tech on Marneus?
I know you built it. I'm not sure if you ever did deck tech on it.
I'm going to have to look and see if... I don't think I did. No, I didn't.
It may have been before you were starting to do your deck tech.
I did one on a Layla in those colors. But yeah, so I built a high-level Marneus Calgar deck and was very proficient with it because I goldfished it a million times, played it a bunch, and then when you brought it to the table, I knew all your lines of play before you played them.
Yeah, and I guess what I like about both of ours is we both have different win cons. You do boots on a wall, and I do aristocrats.
It's the dumbest win con, but as much as I love treasures, I wanted to kill people with treasures, and I go like 2 extra steps just to kill you with treasures, and it's weird because it's such a good deck. And then I have this really dumb win condition with it.
Like we could sit there and see, you can just pay all the mana for all your Astartes warriors and kill us with that. But then, no, you sack those to get treasures. Then you bring out Cyberdriver Awakener.
Turn them back into 4/4s.
Then you kill us.
So it's like I have a million. What are they? 2/2 warriors with vigilance?
2/2 Astartes warriors.
So I have a million 2/2 warriors with vigilance, and instead of just killing you with them, I got to turn them into treasures. Then turn those treasures into 4/4s. Give them flying, give them haste, and then coming at you guys. Yeah, that's fun. I love that deck.
Yeah, I love mine also.
Well, cool. So
long tangent short. Let's get back to the Precons.
Yeah, right. No, but that's. We had a good transition. And we threw it away.
Well, this is how all of our conversations go. We have a transition, then like we tangent on to like something else that just tickles our fancy that we want to talk about.
Gotta tickle that fancy.
Yeah.
Gotta tickle that fancy. So we you guys started doing the Precons, and let's talk about the state of Precons then versus the state of Precons now.
Yeah. So if my memory serves, the Precons back then weren't very good. If we were using like a power scale, they were probably somewhere between a 3 and 4. Maybe sometimes you would get a really good one that was a 5, but that was a rarity.
Outside of that very first round, which we never got.
Yeah.
The ones we were going into, they were about what we call 3 or 4 now. But the difference was they were mid back then.
Yeah.
Like, power creep has happened, so they're
Yeah.
like going back and looking at them, they're not that great. The commanders were decent, but the decks just didn't have that much power. We had pretty long games back
Yes.
then. The reprint value definitely wasn't anywhere near it is now.
No.
But now, okay, so
And they didn't have like typical commander staples like Soul Ring, Arcane Signet. I believe those weren't in those decks
I think they were in again that first round.
in the first round, but not the second.
The only ones because I got a mono green one, I got Mael. I did turn my Mael into a decent mid deck. That was just fun. That was just a fun. That's the one you pay 5 mana, tap it, and you like flip the top 5 cards, and you play a creature that's like has like 5 power or more. Or something
Okay, that actually seems really fun.
Yeah, it's super fun.
I love creatures, so anytime I hear a creature deck, I'm just like, that's interesting. Free creatures out.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like what's Adam's deck with the eggs.
Atla.
So it's like a worse version of Atla.
Mm-hmm.
Same colors, same concept. A lot of people swap their Maels for Atlas because Atla does the same thing, but you don't miss with Atla.
Yes.
You only did your top 5 cards, so you could 100% miss with Mael.
Get all lands, sorceries, or artifacts. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I've whiffed before.
Yeah. So, but I mean, it was fine. It was a really fun deck. Actually, that's another one I'd like to rebuild. Now, let's talk about like from Lord of the Rings till this recent set of Karlov Manner.
Karlov Manner, yeah. Now I get the feeling. I think it varies between which deck you get, but I feel like you could take a Precon, and if you go to a table that's maybe not playing Pauper, but maybe playing more mid-level decks.
You're just mid.
Yeah, just mid. You could definitely go there and possibly win a couple games, but you're at least competing with them.
Yeah, I completely agree. We played a game Tuesday, which we'll talk about, and my deck went off.
My deck did not.
Like, the thing that hurt my deck the most was that your decks weren't going off. So I think I had 5 things removed in a 2-turn span.
And that was sort of the issue with my deck, because I was using all of my turns to keep you in check.
Yeah, like that kind of slowed everyone else down because my deck was just going off. But like going to like the Lord of the Rings decks, those Lord of the Rings decks were strong.
Yes,
they were out of the pack good. The most recent Ixalan decks were some of the best Precons I've ever played. I'm also a fan of Tribal, Typal, Kindred, all those things. I came in on the first Innistrad, so werewolves and vampires were my thing back then.
Yeah, I really just like the aesthetic of that. I know when like Midnight Hunt and Curse of Innistrad came out, I just bought. I did like the huge $200 boxes of those, and like I sort of splurged, but because I just love that aesthetic so much.
Yeah, it's a cool setting, and then, but yeah, so those Ixalan Precons were fantastic. Like they were so stinking good. There was a few others in between throughout the year that were also solid too.
Yeah, and I think you can speak more on it than I can because I've sort of like moved away from Precons. But it seems like you really kept up with like what Precons were coming out, who were the commanders of the Precons, and what exactly was in the Precons.
I recommend Precons to anyone starting Magic. I guess the way you should start. Of course, we have some friends who just are crazy and want to go Wooburg with their first ones.
Yes.
Not mentioning names, Kyle. But Precons is the way to start. And those tribal Precons specifically, you know what goes in them. This is pirates. Cool. Let me look at what other pirates are out there, and if I want to upgrade stuff. This is merfolk. These are dinos. These are vampires. And you know exactly what the deck's trying to do. And it's easy. Magic is super complicated, and so it's easier for a new player to conceptualize a creature type.
I have my Lathro deck that's all elves, and elves are one of the strongest and easiest to build.
For sure.
Because elves just build off other. You have Priest of Titania, you have Circle of Dreams.
Priest of what?
Do you want me to say it?
Priest of Titties.
Priest
Come
of
on,
titties.
man. Priest of Titties. Some people in our group don't like that, but I love it.
It is fun. I enjoy saying it too. just for the viewers, let's not confuse them at first. Now I will say Priest of Titties.
Priest of Titania. She's excellent. One of my favorite mana dorks out there.
Yeah. But like I was saying, like elves just build upon elves. So like that's a very easy concept to give to players.
Yeah, Azuri was my first mono green elf deck. It was good. Then I swapped to Reese, green white elves. Those were great. And then you have
I have my Lathril, which is my elf deck.
Green black?
Green black.
Yeah.
Yep. And then I'm trying to think if I have any other tribal deck. I have a Human Angels deck that's
I like your Human Angels deck.
Yeah, it's not necessarily tribal in the sense of all the cards are a certain type, but it's more so like I have a whole bunch of humans that help me get into my big elves.
Angels.
Yeah, I cannot. Yeah, I don't talk very much.
Yeah, good. Hey, let's start a podcast because you can't talk. I just built Voha. Go check it out on. I say Voja the entire time. I've been corrected, told it's Voja or Voha. But I just did a Voha Precon, then played it on the Brothers War YouTube channel. Go check them out. And that's a mostly elves.
Yes.
With some changelings, and I don't think I put any wolves outside of Voha.
Yeah, like I remember when you said you were building that deck, I read the ability and I called you and I was like, I'm just curious to how you're building this deck because I feel like you and me may build it differently because I thought you would put more wolves in it just because I know that's how you like to flavor your decks. But like when I was thinking about building it, I was thinking like, let's put a whole bunch of elves in there and let's find a way to give all of our creatures haste and make Voha the last spell you play and then just swing out and get your ++ for each elf.
Yeah, I have 4 instances of haste giving, mostly because you add red with elves. You give elves haste. Okay, I'm going to tap this forest to make a Llanowar elves. Well, he gets to tap right away and replaces that forest. It basically becomes a cantrip. Tap it into a Finhorn elves. Now you have 6 mana because you had haste and one green open, and then Voha's out there, and now you get 3 counters on all your creatures just from one green source.
Yeah.
Like it's insane. It's nuts. It played well. Haste is strong. Haste is one of the most underrated. We should rate all the keywords. Haste is one of the most underrated keywords.
I think another one is Exalted. And I was scrolling through Instagram and I saw a white legendary creature. I forget the name of it, but it gave all your enchantments Exalted also.
Yeah, that's nuts. If we're going more of a combat strategy, that's really strong, especially if you're doing Voltron.
Yeah, I think you're right about haste being underrated. I think just in my mind, normally if like a creature has haste, it's usually a lot smaller than what you would normally get for that mana value. But like you said, if you're not like trying to deal damage with that creature, then it doesn't really matter what its power toughness is.
Right. And I feel like most decks in Commander, especially right now, they're getting back to where I want it to be, but you're not really attacking until you're ready to win.
Yeah, and that's sort of like another thing that maybe it's more of an issue with our table than anything.
Yeah,
I really
it's a terrible issue with our table.
Yeah, and that's why I
go ahead and explain what the issue with our
our issue with our table is we have a tendency to sit back and let everybody build up. If there's going to be interaction, it's going to be through your instance and sorcery like Source of Plowshare or Path to Exile or any other type of removal. Or we're going to keep stuff that gives our creatures hexproof, indestructible, or just counter spells. And I think that's the issue I run into a lot of our table is I like to swing in and get, and not like your typical, I'll swing 1 and do a little chip damage. I like to try to swing in and get like maybe 5 damage here.
Put some pressure on people, man. We have the most timid play group.
It's because our play group gets mad when you deal damage to them. And then, like, you may not have the strongest board, but you did damage to me. You're now going to be my nemesis for the rest of the game.
Our play group gets so offended, is so easily offended at any little thing you do to them. There's one player, he's a newer player, so we'll give him a little bit of a break. Eli literally swapped with Zedru. He literally swapped islands. So it didn't affect his board state, but just because you messed with my island, he was enemy, he was nemesis until that game ended.
Yeah. That still sort of bothers me. I'm like, I did not understand the only thing you could argue is I swapped a tap island for an
But it
untapped
wasn't
value.
his turn.
But it wasn't even his turn.
And he could have tapped it in response if he needed the mana.
Yeah, but that's also him being a new player. But
Right. But yeah, but if he had interaction, he could have used it. But that's the extreme. But that is our table 100%. Is we're so timid. We don't want to attack people because we don't want to offend people, get people mad at us. We don't want to remove stuff. I do wish our table played with more removal than what
yes,
they do. More interaction rather. I don't love just counterspelling everything, counterspelling all your value plays and stuff, but get rid of the big threats.
yeah. I think we also have like one player. I think he likes to be too friendly when it comes to like politics, and
Mhm.
because of that, he gives other players a chance to get ahead. And once they get ahead, maybe he may have removal, but some of the other players may not have removal. But he decides, no, I'm just gonna see if somebody else deals with it, or I've already been friendly with them. I don't feel like being unfriendly, even though they're clearly in the lead and they're starting to run away with it. And so that's sort of like some of the frustrations I've had with our
Well,
table.
that's an interesting conversation to have, though, is when there's other players at the table, do you keep your removal and hope that they use theirs? I don't think it's a dumb strategy. I think it's actually a smart strategy because other people aren't willing to take that risk. Some people are a little trigger happy. So I think that might be a little bit on the other end, but some people are a little trigger happy with their removal. Like I said, I have one of our players. If I get fervor out because they know what I can do with haste, they know how I like to abuse haste. I like to abuse tokens. If I get fervor out, they're destroying fervor right away,
I
even
do
if I
this,
don't have any of
yeah,
any of the other pieces.
I do the same thing with your parallel lives because I know you're great at like getting value with your treasure tokens and all that.
Yeah, like my value stuff gets removed constantly, uh, and that's fine, except they don't have the removal or the interaction whenever the actual threat comes out. Like we'll talk on some time about the most powerful parts of Magic, but I think card draw is the most powerful uh, thing in Magic. Then ramp after that, and so like if I'm ramping, like there's sometimes I'll get like 100 or 1,000 treasure tokens, but I have zero card draw. And people are removing. I had two omnisciences out once. I had two omnisciences and like 200 treasures. This is how I build decks. So I had like 200 treasures, two omnisciences, and someone removed one of my omniscience.
That
And
does nothing.
yeah, I was like, that does nothing. And even if you remove both of them, I have 200 treasures. Like if I can't win with 200 treasures, I'm not winning with omniscience.
Yeah.
Like so, but just because it's me doing value things, people want to remove it. And I don't think I had any cards in hand. If I did, I had one. Uh, and so they removed my stuff, and then someone else went off and won, and they could have used that removal.
Right. Yeah, we can definitely have a discussion later about like when you should use removal. My thing is I just think so many times I see someone could remove something and they decide to remove it just a turn too late when they
Yeah,
should have.
yeah.
And so because of that, then we then see someone go off. None of us can get to our answers to keep that player in check, and they just run away with it.
All right. Well, speaking so we have bad interaction in our play group, but we have a good time. Uh,
Yeah.
I I play I play group hug as well, and that's a fun balance. If I'm giving you stuff, but I'm trying to get more value, and I usually have enough removal in there. I think I have more wins with my group hug,
Yeah.
a better win percentage with my group hug than I do with my other decks. It's fun because I play to your greed, but
Yeah. Well, not last game. You gave me that one extra colorless mana I needed, and I just instantly board wipe everybody.
yep, that happens quite a bit. Is like, and then I'll try to guilt you by saying, "Man, you used the one thing I gave you. Use my stuff to destroy my stuff."
You know that doesn't
I,
work on me anymore.
I gotta try. Anyway, these precons. So we got what? Deep Clue C,
Yep.
Blame Game, Revenant Recon, and Deadly Disguise. They had proper removal in my mind.
They
They
did.
had more removal than we usually play.
I spent that whole game trying to remove stuff.
Right. Like I said, 5 of my valuable things got removed. But I mean, I had like, it was like turn 5. I had like Coma out. I had Essex, and my commander was bringing out a token at the beginning of, I don't know, it's my upkeep. I think it was the beginning of my upkeep. So every turn I'm just guaranteed, without doing anything else, to copy any creature on the battlefield. and then I also had coma out, so I'm getting tokens on everyone else's. Like, it was ridiculous. So it's like, yeah, my stuff should have been removed. Essex got removed first, then you had the exile spell.
I had
So you get rid
the
of
Chaos
Karma.
Warp, so it
Oh
put
yeah,
it back.
shuffled it.
It
Yeah,
put it
yeah.
back in your deck because I remember you got it back out later.
So he chaos warped my coma, and I pulled out an Academy Manufactor.
Yes.
Just like the best thing I could do. And then I got
Yeah.
coma back in my hand
Yeah.
and played him later.
I just made your deck play like it was supposed to play.
Yeah, right. It was insane. I had the best luck on that game. But so what happened? Kyle got out fast with what was he playing? Revenant Disguise?
He was playing Revenant Recon.
Revenant Recon. Okay, Deadly Disguise. You were playing Deadly Disguise.
I was playing Deadly Disguise.
Okay, so Revenant Recon. He was playing Revenant Recon. He got out to a quick start. Then I took over around turn 5, turn 6. Started going to Value Town.
Yes.
Doing really well. The deck's going off. Big stuff's happening, and Kyle removes something. You remove a couple things. I don't know if Adam removed something on mine.
I think I just removed your coma. That's all I did.
Okay, so Kyle removed 2 things, my Essex and something else. You remove something, Adam removes something. Goes to my turn, I have Academy Manufacturer out. That gets removed. Kyle steals that.
Yes, he stole your whole graveyard.
Yeah, so he blew that up and then brought it back from the graveyard and like 3 other things.
Yeah, and then I played Decimate and used all of my Decimate.
Yeah.
This was also my full turn again, just trying to keep both of y'all in check, and I just decimated as much of his board as I could. I used it all on his stuff.
Yeah, so Adam's deck's not playing well at all, and that I think it's a good deck. He was playing Blame Game. Blame Game's a good deck. I've seen it play well.
I mean, I was watching it and I was like, we need to at least keep an eye on him because, like, I know it doesn't look crazy, but he's getting a lot of value from Curse of Opulence and drawing a card each time we were attacking each other, and we were swinging at each other.
It was the engine was going. He just wasn't drawing into good stuff.
Yeah,
and then he finally plays. What's the dinosaur?
Oh, Tali.
Tali. He finally plays a Tali, and Kyle removes that pretty quick, so he doesn't get to use that. He was just like a step behind. He was just like his deck was just a step behind us every single time. You guys spent all your stuff removing my stuff, so then Kyle goes off, board wipes, and then brings everything back from the graveyards. And now he's the threat, and no one has any removal for him.
Well, I tried to remove his stuff, and because of Adam's Curse of Opulence, he got the 1 extra mana he needed to use his bounce spell. Because my board wipe required me to target a creature.
He also countered one of your spells when you tried to remove.
No, that was the board wipe. So I played it's the one where I target one of my creatures and destroys all creatures with power greater.
So he goes to remove your creature. Yeah, he bounces your creature so that there's no target and it fizzles.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he had exactly the right mana to do it.
Yeah. So that doesn't happen. He's fully in charge. My deck builds right back up.
Yes.
And I'm right back in it. And then Adam plays a spell that everyone has to attack with all their creatures, and when they attack, they deal a damage to their controller.
Yes.
So we're all dead. We all had a pretty good board state. We're all dead.
Mm-hmm.
And then I draw into a board wipe. So
yeah.
So in a board wipe, I get I have on board that anytime I draw a card, I deal damage to everyone.
Yes.
And
Psychosis
Crawler. And I had ultimated to Tezzeret. So anytime I tapped an artifact, I drew a card. So I was tapping artifacts, drawing cards. I was tapping artifacts to cast spells, drawing cards. And so just by playing my board wipe, I had to tap 8 artifacts. So I tap 8 clues to cast the board wipe, but just by casting it, I deal 8 damage to everybody.
Yeah.
Which was just such a sick, like, I don't think they built that in there on purpose, but it all synergized. It was just such a sick little engine I had going. Blow up all non-artifact creatures. I make my coma indestructible, and I get everyone down to, I kill both of you, and I get Kyle down to 1. Was that how it went?
So I think you killed Adam, which left just
that's right.
Me and Kyle.
You were still there.
I still had a little bit of life.
I killed you with combat damage.
You killed me with combat damage, yes.
Yeah, so I killed you with combat. I destroyed all your stuff, killed you with combat damage, and then got Kyle down to 1. And then at his upkeep, did something untapped of mine, didn't it?
You had a way to draw a card. I don't remember what exactly the interaction was, but you had a creature that got to untap.
Oh no. So I had Tezzeret out. Tezzeret on each turn gives me 2 mana.
Oh.
And so I get
you cracked the clue.
I get 2 mana. So I used 2 mana to crack a clue, draw a card,
Yep.
and killed him. And it was such like he would have killed me. 100% would have killed me.
But
that
he had
turn.
to do the combat damage, and he was not getting.
And he
combat.
didn't get to it. Yeah.
Yeah, because he made a whole bunch of copies. Kappa Cannoneer.
Yeah.
One of my favorite cards.
Because they're artifact creatures.
Yeah.
That would have been unblockable.
Yeah.
He just had to cast an artifact.
Exactly. He could easily do that.
Yeah. So he was gonna murder me. I was down to like 3 health, and just like just by the skin of my teeth, man. I almost died to Adam, get the right card, but I drew like 50 cards that game. It was nuts in a precon.
Yeah.
And they get this sweet little combination of this little synergy going on, and then the Tezzeret, which you guys should have killed. That was your guys' fault.
Yeah, that was our fault.
I just had no to kill it.
I just had no way to swing into it because you had a creature big enough to hit it.
But the other two had some unblockable creatures, or menace creatures, because Adam was giving people menace. So there was 2 instances where I was like, if they swing in a Tezzeret, he doesn't get his ultimate, and he dies, and I don't get that 2 mana, which I wasn't making clues yet. I would get 1 clue every turn, and just be able to use that, and made my commander kind of big. So
you had fun with your deck.
I had a blast.
I did not have fun with my deck.
Yeah.
Which it was the right colors because it's the color combination that I really enjoy, and I saw how it was supposed to work. I just could not get to play with my deck, and because I was just trying to remove yours and Kyle's stuff.
So listen, kids, play with your deck. If you have a deck, play with it. Why do you have a deck if you're not playing with it?
Well, I was playing with my deck. I just couldn't do what I want to do with it. But yeah, because like what you didn't see that I had in my hand was I had a artifact that lets me. It was 4 mana. Then I can tap it and I can put a creature down that was 3 colors, so I can basically play my morph creatures. And also, when it had an ability, whenever a creature turns face up, if the ability would trigger, it would trigger twice.
Right.
And so what I had played a turn earlier was a creature that when it turned face up, I got to put a creature from my hand onto the battlefield. So if I was able to get that artifact out, I was able to put 2 creatures, and I had an angel that would have gave me life, and I had a really big 9/9 creature in my hand. The issue was y'all's creatures were just too big for that to make a difference, and nobody else was trying to deal with your board.
And here's another case where Kyle's commander was like a 16/16 flying vigilant.
Yeah,
and he wasn't swinging with it.
No, he was swinging at me. He was swinging with. He was swinging at me.
He swung at you once, and I path to exiled it.
Yeah, you did some. Yeah, you path to exile it, but at the same time, like he still swung it at me, and I'm looking at him. I'm like, I don't understand why you're swinging at me because Brien is clearly the threat.
Well, he was the threat, but I was definitely.
You were the second threat. Yeah,
I was his biggest threat. He definitely should have swung at me. You explained it to him, and he said, "I'm fine with that." He had his reasons.
I'm sure he did.
Whatever they were, I would have exiled it coming at me either way. But that was another one of those cases where I had to decide. One, he blew up one of my things, and so I was kind of spiteful anyway.
Yeah.
But I had to decide: do I want Eli dead? This wasn't going to kill you, but it was going to get you really close.
It would have brought me down to I think 13, or whenever 13, he swung his commander damage.
Yeah, but 16 commander damage.
Yeah.
So either I wanted you alive because he was the threat, and I have a philosophy: if I'm not in first place, I don't want the last place person dead because I need them to help me deal with the threat. And sure enough,
next turn I come out with a decimate.
Yeah, I would say if you don't do that decimate, he has the bounce spells needed to save himself. Whenever I go for the win.
Yeah.
So it was one of those situations where it paid off for me and I got the win that time.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe strongly that don't kill the last place person just to remove a person unless you're in first. If you're in first and you can remove the last place, go for it.
Yeah.
But if not, you'd need like just that one spell that person in last place can get. Also, there's some weird like gratitude for me saving you and keeping you in the game, where you're gonna be like, if I got to remove something, they both have threats, that tiebreaker.
Yeah.
But he saved my life, so I'm gonna go after his.
Yeah, and that part of it went into my decision. The other part of my decision was Kyle was just way ahead of
Yeah.
all of us. Like
Yeah.
if I was to look at the value on his board, he was probably 2 turns ahead of us if I had to put like a turn counter on it.
Yeah, well, he stole all the value I was getting.
Yeah, that was just your graveyard because me and Adam didn't have any creatures in our graveyard.
Have a graveyard, yeah.
Yeah.
So he just took his graveyard, which was pretty good because he was surveilling.
Yeah.
A bunch, putting stuff in his graveyard, and then he stole mine. So, but overall, play experience. How do you think if we played those decks 5 more times? You think your deck would have played well? One of those?
I feel like it would have played well. I'm not sure if I would have ever gotten a win in it because it has the card draw built into the commander.
Yeah.
The issue was in the late game, I feel like it's a little too slow. Granted, I may have other creatures that give me more value.
Right.
But from what I saw, it lets me get out creatures for a lot cheaper than what I would normally get them out for.
You're cheating in.
I'm cheating in, yeah.
Big. You can cheat in big stuff. It didn't seem like you had a ton of big stuff in there, though.
No, I think, like I said, in my hand, I had a 9/9 creature, but it was literally a 9/9, had no other abilities. I had a dragon that was a 5/5 that when it went face up, I got to go search my library for another dragon.
What did your commander do?
My commander was...
Was it the Bear Mother?
It was not the Bear Mother. That was I just happened to get that one out.
You got her out, though.
Yeah, it was...
The Bear Mother in that deck, so in the Brothers War gameplay channel that I was on, one of the players, one of my opponents played the Bear Mother, and she's awesome.
Yeah, like I saw this synergy with my deck because all the morph creatures are 2/2. So if I want to deal damage with my morph creatures, I can tap them and make them 5. I can give them +3/+3.
Do you think if you played her as the commander instead of your commander, that it would have been better or worse? Because sometimes I like the like in the Food and Fellowship deck, the Lord of the Rings Food and Fellowship deck, I liked playing Bilbo or Merry and Pippin more than I like playing Sam and Frodo, and I played all of them a couple times.
I'm gonna say no. The reason being is my commander was only 2 mana, so I can get her out pretty quick. The other reason is the commander has card draw built into it, whereas the Bear Mother only has an ETB card draw built into it.
Gotcha. The original question was just overall play experience, and if you think I could get some wins.
I quite possibly.
What about with upgrades?
Upgrades.
Do you think it's an upgrade issue, or do you think it doesn't have a ton of synergy with or a ton of support?
And this is where my Magic knowledge just fails me because I don't play with Morph a lot.
Right. No one plays with Morph a lot. I thought the Blame game, it didn't play extremely well, but you saw the engine.
Yeah.
You saw what it could do. I think that was one of the stronger decks. It just didn't play well in that game.
I think in our game we could classify that deck as third, but I think it's I think it's a lot closer to the second or first than you initially realize.
Yeah. I'm gonna think Deep Blue Sea was the best commander or the best deck by itself. But that's my play style.
Yeah.
We randomly drew the decks, and I got the one I wanted, which was nice.
Yeah, I actually think probably the Blame game was probably better than the Revenant Recon, which is the one Kyle got. I just think the reason Kyle's deck went off so well was because he got a turn 1 Soul Ring.
Yeah,
and then he got to kick.
That's good.
Yeah, then he got to multi-kick the artifact that let him tap for 2 again. So he basically had 2 Soul Rings.
Everflowing Chalice.
Everflowing Chalice, yeah. By turn 3, he had basically 2 Soul Rings, and he played a land each turn, so he had 2 or 3 lands also. So he had somewhere between 6 and 7.
And he was only in one. He only got that one blue source. He had a bunch of double blue spells, so he would have done even better and got out faster had he got that second island.
Yeah, and he eventually got it. And his deck then we saw it go off.
But it had good in game cards, really good in game cards. So even if he got to a slow start, I think it would have done well. And he had probably the most interaction. His counter spells and removals and bounces and stuff.
Yeah, funny enough, I think my deck had the second best interactions.
Yeah, you were just.
But and it's not built for that.
My deck I drew into some really good stuff. But when you have card draw, that's what you do. Card draw is the strongest thing in Magic.
Yeah, card draw. I think there's an argument there that treasures or mana ramp is the second strongest.
I would think so. I would argue that.
Yeah, it's one of those things. I think it's a catch-22 where there can be times where you draw too many cards and not have enough mana, or you can have too much mana and not enough card draw.
Right. But think about it this way: if you draw a bunch of cards, you're going to get into your ramp pieces. You're going to get into your mana. You're not missing land drops. You're at least staying on curve. Like, if you draw 10 cards, you're going to hit something. Like, that's just math, right? Like, obviously, there's some exceptions. I think Rachel Weeks on the most recent game nights drew like 7 or 8 cards and didn't hit her land. So there are those chances where that might happen.
Another thing I've been thinking about, whenever I see like mana ramp, is usually from you. It's always treasures. Do you feel like do you feel like there's more interaction with like treasures with other cards than there is with card draw?
I don't know if it's interaction as much as you can abuse the treasure. One, because they're tokens,
right?
So you can
get your like using a treasure to like make trigger another ability is what I'm getting at.
Oh yeah, for sure. You have in my Jan Jansen deck, sacrificing treasures deals damage. Treasures coming in deal damage.
Yeah.
So.
And so I guess I'm thinking treasures probably have more of a win con than card draw does. Is what in terms of like getting the win.
I don't know, because in my Quain deck, me drawing cards is milling everyone else out, or me drawing cards is getting +1/+1 counters.
Yeah, but that deck is built around drawing and not necessarily around the tokens.
Right, but my treasure decks are built around getting the treasures out.
Yeah, I say that, and then I realize all your decks have treasures, so there's not really a big difference there.
Yeah, well, I mean, even in Quain, I fish for Smothering Tithe, then I make everyone draw cards, which gets me more treasures.
Do you have like Annoying Procession in that deck?
Oh yeah, I got Annoying Procession. I got.
Did you ever put Mondrak in there?
Mondrak's in there, and then I have like Mirror Maid.
Yeah.
And so I'm making doubles of, and then a couple clone effects. So I'm even making, like, people get mad at me because I'll make like 3, 4, 6, 10 Smothering Tithes.
I mean, I did the same thing in one of my games where I made 8 Modraks. So
yeah, no, it's fun. Like,
yeah, it is fun.
Like, we're playing casual Commander.
Yeah,
it's fun. If I'm playing high level, if I'm playing French CDH, I'm not doing that. But this is a casual format that's meant for fun. That literally the judges who made the format made it because they were at these competitions. They wanted to get away from that format, from that idea, from that competitiveness. They wanted to just have fun and hang out. Yeah. Back to the Precons. I enjoyed them. I liked them, but I also won the game.
Yeah,
I thought they all played really well. I still like Ixalan's better, but this is a strong set.
Why do you feel like Ixalan's are better? Is it more of like a power thing, or did it just play style geared more toward you?
It's somewhat power, but it's not even play style, because Deep Clucy is my play style.
Okay.
It's that I believe Precons are meant for new players to get into Magic, or to introduce new concepts. Those are the two things that Precons do. But ultimately, I think Precons are meant to bring new players into the format, and bringing them in and tribal something simpler, because you're trying to figure out, like, we forget because we've been playing for 13 years.
Yeah.
That, we know the steps now. Mm-hmm. We know the different parts of each phase and each step, and we've finally got a decent idea of what the stack is and how the interaction works there. The game is so complex. It's nice to have something that's easy that you already know coming in. You already know what pirates are. So it makes sense when a pirate wants to steal someone's stuff, when a pirate wants to go after treasure. Dinos, you're just playing. In that dino deck, all you're doing is you're playing dinosaurs, and you're getting benefits from playing dinosaurs. I play a dinosaur that's 7 power, 7 toughness. Cool. I'm discovering for 7. And the next thing that I can cast that's less than 7, I get to cast, or less than 8, I get to cast. So they're just simple.
I got that.
And in a complex game, bringing someone in with a simple idea that they already, I like dinosaurs, I like pirates, I like merfolk, I like vampires. You already have an attachment.
Yeah, and I think for me, for like a new player, that's great. Or whenever we uh, get together and everybody's playing a precon deck,
Yeah.
I think once again those are great. If I'm being honest though, I would not bring a precon deck unchanged to our pod because I feel like the people we play with, they build decks that are just really optimized and very much streamlined. I feel like the people we play with, they build their deck and they have one win con in mind and they built their deck to get to that win con. Whereas with these precons, I think they try to do maybe two, sometimes three things at once built into the deck.
Yeah.
That those 2 and 3 things synergize, but it sometimes gets a little muddy. And I'm very frugal with my money, so if I'm going to go and buy magic cards, I'd rather buy singles for decks I
Do you
want to
have
build.
those standard cards though?
Just-
do you, Eli?
But just because I like to proxy a whole bunch of stuff, and by proxy, I mean like I'll have a soul ring and I'll literally take a land, flip it around, and just write soul ring and Sharpie on the back of the land.
For Christmas, I had everyone get him just a bunch of soul rings, arcane signets, command towers.
Yeah.
And he still hasn't put them in his decks.
No, I'll put them in. It's horrible when we try to record a video and I'm finally flipping through my deck and like, oh, I thought I had already replaced these. My plan was as I play through my decks, I'll
Right.
put them in there. But then we started like doing recordings and I'm like, oh, I have stuff I need to put in this.
Good old frugal Eli. No, to your point though. We had a new player come in Saturday.
Yes.
They played a precon. They got destroyed. like that game in like turn 10. So actually, to give him his credit, he actually did a good job in the first game. I didn't play the other ones with him. The precon would have had a chance. It just drew terribly.
Right. Did you were in that game?
Yeah.
Were y'all like still coaching him through like the deck and all that? The same thing happened when I played with him also when he was playing your Magda deck.
I love Magda, and that's a good deck for new players to. It's very streamlined, so it's good for new players to play Magda because it's simple, it's streamlined, but it's high enough power where you can play it against. You can play Magda in the table and you'll be fine.
Yeah.
The problem is it's a tutor deck, and so you have to know what's in there.
Yeah.
You have to know what's in there. That's an issue. But okay, last question. So, which of the 4 decks do we feel were worth the money?
Worth the money? If I was to buy...
Let's go top, yeah. If you were to buy one
deck,
which one would you buy?
I would actually buy the Blame Game. I know I saw the value engine with like your deck.
Yeah.
And like it did cool things. But I just like the play style of goading other people's creatures and like I said, his deck didn't go off, but I was still seeing the engine. And I was seeing the value his engine get, and it was enough to make me be like, I still need to keep my eye on him. So imagine if like your decks were a little bit slower, he got a little bit better card draw.
Right.
I can definitely see a world where he wins that game. So I think the Blame Game is definitely worth getting.
Yeah, and reprint value, I checked before this. Reprint value, they're all pretty close. After everything was reprinted, all the prices dropped. Deep Clue C is like $100 in reprint value, which is great. Like you're spending 40 or 50, you get $100 worth. You feel good, and those will go back up. This is the cheapest they're going to be. They'll go back up after half a year or whatever.
Yeah.
And then but Blame Game was like 90, so it was still. I think all of them were around 90. They're still up there.
Yeah. What about you? What deck do you think you would feel like
Deep
it's
Clue
worth?
C,
Deep Clue
100%.
C?
Yeah, it was great.
Where would you recommend new players buy these decks? Because I know in a lot of card shops they sometimes up the price of the precon because of the value that's in there. If someone, granted, always support your local shop, but if you were to like try to be as frugal as you can and just get as much of a deal as you could, where would you buy the decks?
Probably Amazon.
Amazon?
Yeah.
Yeah.
One, if you're a Prime member, then if you're a Prime member, you're gonna get free shipping, which that alone is gonna cover what most of the other places you're gonna get it.
Yeah.
about $10
Yeah.
in shipping, whatever.
Yeah, luckily for us, I feel like we all make decent enough money that we can go and spend the extra money at our local game store, so we still support them.
Yeah, I mean, one of our friends, he bought the whole set, and we just played his. I did actually go and get Deep Blue Sea.
You liked it that much?
Because I wasn't going to get anything from this set. I bought a couple. I bought 3 of the ones from Ixalan. I bought all but the. I mean, there's my Dino deck right there. It's still in the box, but I bought 3 of the 4 from Ixalan, and then I wasn't going to buy any of these because I got 3 of the 4. I'm fine. I got 2 from Doctor Who. None of them really speak to me. And then I played that Deep Blue Sea, and it was so much fun.
You got addicted to the win.
Well, I got to.
You got the high of the win.
Yeah. No, it wasn't even just. It was just how it played. Because I thought Kyle was going to win.
Yeah.
He should have won. I barely got that win, but I enjoyed playing it so much. But I'm also it's everything that I love in Magic.
Yeah.
And also, I have treasure decks. So a couple Christmases ago, one of our friends got me a treasure box that has nothing but gold sleeve treasures in it. 100 treasure tokens in it.
Yeah.
So I get to put all those out. And then this year, you and him and them got me. It's up there. It's
a cornucopia.
A cornucopia with food tokens in it. It's green sleeve food tokens, and that's for my Samwise deck. Also, go check out my Samwise deck tech. It's probably my best. I think it's my best performing video as far as deck techs go.
Nice.
But it's a really fun deck. And then so Clues was the other one because Academy Manufactor. Is that what we figured out it was?
Yeah, because what we've been calling it manufactor and manufactor.
Academy Manufactor is becoming my favorite card. I think Smothering Tide's still there.
Yeah.
Up at the top, but that's becoming one of my favorite cards, and it is a win con in 2 of my decks.
Well, we're going to argue any of your decks that you play treasures, you might as well just throw it in there so you can get food and clues at the same time.
And then also so it's in my Ognis deck, was a treasure deck.
Mm-hmm.
It's in my Samwise deck, which is a food deck, and now it's in this deck, which is a clue deck. And so it turns all of us, I use all my tokens, so we definitely need, next year, get me them clue tokens.
We'll figure something out. I'm not sure what container we would get for that. Maybe like a Sherlock Holmes hat and just put all the clues in there.
I like that one. I'll take it. I'll wear the hat though.
We'll figure out something.
Yeah, for sure. But yeah, that would be the one overall, just flat reprint value. They're all worth it. If you don't have those cards yet, or if you don't proxy and you want extras of those cards, you'll get your money's worth, and the value will come back up. So I would recommend getting any of them if they sound like fun to you. I thought they all could have played well, but I definitely think Deep Blue Sea was the best one.
Yeah, and also I would say if you have like a group of friends that you've all discussed possibly getting into Magic, I would say it's worth like going and each of you getting like a different one of these decks and starting and playing that way.
Yeah, if you got 4 friends,
because they're close enough power level, I feel like.
Yeah,
you all each have fun.
Yeah, if you have 4 friends and want to get into Magic, and hopefully our channel will start hitting those new players that want to get into Magic. But if you got 4 friends that want to get into Magic, buy a case. You're going to get it for much cheaper if you buy all 4 of them together. They're worth it. I would say get the Ixalan stuff though. That would be my suggestion. Your reprint value is also there with the Ixalan stuff. It makes more sense, and it's easier to be like, well, I want vampires, I want pirates, I want merfolk, I want dinosaurs.
So all those decks were tribal?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Tribal. You hear that? Tribal.
Well, that's just because I'm an old fogey who isn't hip with the times.
Yeah, I do like Kindred. I will not lie. I'm a fan of Kindred. I will not call it typal, though. And I even found out that tribal or typal is still a word. Kindred's taking over a certain aspect of it. It's weird, but typal and Kindred are now coexisting in a similar space.
I just don't care. I'm not into like the word play and all that. I'm just like, if you say something, I'll know what you mean, and you say what you say, I'll say what I say.
Just don't say typal. It just sounds so dumb. It's not. it just sounds lazy. Like Kindred sounds cool.
And yeah, it does sound cool.
I think if it was never tribal and it started off as Kindred, I'd be fine. I'd be totally okay with it, and that's how I justify it. If it started out as typal, I think I'd have an issue with it. Like that, I don't like it.
I got you.
I don't like it, but I do like the decks. They were great. Ixalan decks were great. The Lord of the Rings precons are great. Like, kind of wrap this up. We do have a Dominator Remastered 2K giveaway once we hit 2,000 subscribers, which the rate we're going should just be a couple months. But we're giving away a Dominator Remastered booster box to someone. All you got to do is like, subscribe, and put nerd in the comments down below. NERD nerd. Eventually, we're going to do a Precon League. So we just started doing our. We've just recorded our second gameplay.
Yes.
We're gonna post them after we get a couple recorded, because we want to be able to consistently get them out on the same date. But after we figure out all of just our format that we want, we're going to do a Precon League where the wins actually matter. So first place is going to get a certain amount of points, probably 4. Second place will get 3. We'll have a whole point system.
Yeah.
And we'll play a series of games. Hopefully we can get 8 people, but if not, we'll do it with 6. And we'll play a series of games, and then the top 4 people will then do one final game for the championship. And we're to keep things even, we're going to pick the best out of the best 10 precons. We're going to randomly choose precons for everybody. It'll be a big fun thing, but we don't see a lot of channels doing leagues. We enjoy the gameplay so much, but I think we just adding some
color commentary,
maybe,
Yeah.
but just adding stipulations to it, adding some weight to actually who's winning.
Yeah.
It might make it a little more fun.
Yeah, like, and the way we're trying to build the league is if you get second place consistently, you should be able to make it to the final game versus
Right.
someone who may get first out of like maybe 5 games, maybe get first once or twice, but then they hit fourth all the other 3 games. So we want more consistent, being more consistent with your decks where they always get second. It's just as much of a win con to get to the league as just trying to go for first all the time.
And well, I'm hoping that it messes with the politics of the thing.
Okay, yeah.
I'm hoping personally that I can make deals with, if I'm in third and you're, or if I'm in second, if I'm in third, maybe I can help the first place person or the second place person take out the first place person and just let me die last so I get those extra points.
Yeah.
Whatever, like, I hope it changes some politics. I think it might be fun. Yeah, but I think that's pretty much it, man. You got anything else to say?
Overall, I think this has been fun. I'm looking forward to any other discussions that we have. I'm just excited for the future about your channel.
Heck yeah, man.
Just like where it's going.
We have such a good team now with you, Sean, Lauren, Adam, Kyle. We're at a good place where we can start doing some gameplay, something I've been wanting to do for a while. So I'm real excited to see where everything's going to. But thanks for tuning in and sticking around for our first ever episode 1 of the Nerd Lab podcast. We will see you around. Until then, embrace the chaos.